From Scripps Sports, this is Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
The Bobcats return home for the first time in a month in a tie for first place in the Big Sky race as we enter into the thick of November. Hello, everybody. I'm Keaton Galogly alongside Grace Lawrence on the Bobcat Insider. Today, we're going to talk with head coach Brent Vigen, and Adam Jones will join us in studio as well. All right, Grace. Yes, the Bobcat offense put up 55 points, but it was the defense that really showed up and showed out, and we saw Talon Marsh put up one of the great plays we'll ever see, an 80-yard pick six, a thick six from the Helena native.
Just absolutely incredible. The speed he brought was insane, and also a shout-out to Dom Solano. He tipped it. But then the team piled, and I was right there in the end zone. They piled on top of him. Vigen said he was okay with the unsportsmanlike penalty post-game because, I mean, it was the team celebrating him. Then he gets on the bench. What stood out to me was Coach Howe embraced him, and he said to him, you know, I'm so proud of you, all that. It was an incredible moment for the team.
Absolutely, and I think for myself and really a lot of fans as well, that was a dream come true. I have always wanted to call a play like that. I will never, ever forget the thick six from Talon Marsh in that win to open up November against Northern Colorado. But really, that was an exclamation point of what was an incredible defensive performance.
I mean, the cornerback room was having a party. They were tackling out in the open field. I just absolutely love watching them grow. They bring an elite level of swagger, I think, that spreads around to the entire defense, coached under Coach Howe.
Absolutely, and this was a secondary that I think we had high hopes for, and they are certainly reaching those hopes. We're talking about that and more with head coach Brent Vigen after this.
Welcome back to Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Back on the Bobcat Insider, Keaton Galogly alongside head coach Brent Vigen, with the Bobcats coming off a 55-7 win against Northern Colorado. Coach, got to start with the defense because that's really how this game started. The cornerbacks, what a performance. Was this the best game of the year for that cornerback group this last week?
Yeah, I believe so. And they were given opportunities to tackle on the perimeter. Certainly had a tall task of covering some really good receivers, and I definitely think they passed the test. And Jace's tackle on Cheeks, that first play of the game, really, I think, set the tone for the whole game.
How much does that preparation piece come into what we saw? I mean, that was such a talking point kind of early in the season. So how much did that impact the way they're playing right now?
I think it's huge. I think they're going in the games very confident in their ability to see the right things and then be able to react. It's such a reactionary position, but you have to have some pre-snap ideas. And Coach Green, along with Coach Shepard, are really getting that secondary ready to go on the pre-snap side of things. And those guys are able to play fast, and they are fast. So when you couple those two things together, it can be pretty explosive at times.
Well, and the final piece would be the willingness as well. I mean, how unique is their willingness to want to be there for that type of contact?
Yeah, I think when we go out and recruit corners, we need to find willing tacklers, and ideally that does show up on high school film, and somehow, some way, as them being physical. And I know this group isn't maybe the largest in stature, and but they're willing to go after it, and they bring really good form at the same time, play with good pad level. So I can't say enough about that group and how they've continued to grow, and obviously their performance on Saturday was critical.
Of course, the exclamation point of this defensive performance was the Talon Marsh pick six, the thick six, the big-time return. Have you seen a play like that before in your career? I mean, it's definitely one of those ones that's up there.
Yeah, you don't see the ball land in interior D lineman's hands a whole lot, and if it does, they typically just go down because they don't know what to do with it. But Talon had his sights set right away, and Dom made the deflection, but then he also got it going. He was the initial lead blocker, and Talon runs pretty well, and I think he saw clear sailing ahead, ran as hard as he could, got an escort from a bunch of guys, and the play will go down in history for sure.
No doubt. And just watching everybody celebrate their teammate, it was cool. Did pick up a flag at the end there. I don't know, is that one of those flags that maybe you kind of don't coach too hard out of the guys?
Yeah, you love seeing the excitement. I know, unsung guys continue to make plays, and it's so exciting to see how appreciative the teammates are in those moments. Whether it's talent or there's a whole long list of guys that have made plays, and how the teammates rally around them in those moments. It is what this team's all about. It's being there for one another, it's supporting one another, and those moments like that are pretty special.
Well, and they also have plenty of fan support as well. Just such an amazing scene, seeing those guys stand up on the bench, cheering with the fan base. It's got to be a lot of fun to just see that kind of cohesion, especially on the road.
Yeah, you go on the road. We have a good following for sure, and to be able to celebrate with our crowd is something. And same deal there. Again, appreciative of everyone and everybody kind of rallying around, the particular player that made that play. I know it was Talon this time. I know Coulter Petrie forced a fumble. I know last week it was Cole Taylor getting on the bench. So maybe we started a new thing. These road games, it's you want to bring your own energy, but we get plenty of that energy from our fan base, and so pleased with how they traveled these last couple games.
Well, that fine takeaway hat has elevated things as well. Let's talk a little bit about the offense. We're going to talk to Adam Jones here in just a little bit. Give us an idea of how you evaluate these running backs' performance beyond just the stats and the things that maybe fans can look in the box score.
Yeah, I think for Adam and Julius, we asked them to do a lot, and what does it all look like? I think so much of the running back position gets measured simply on carries and yards. And while they're both doing, really good things there, they're doing a lot more, whether it's pass protection, whether it's carrying out fakes and being really deliberate about that. If it's blocking downfield, we have those guys lead block for one another or lead block for receivers at times. It's catching a ball and what can they do with it. So, I think we got a tandem of guys that really are unselfish for one, but then when given opportunity, they're going to do something with it, and that's not just with the ball in their hands. So I know we continue to be really pleased with the combined effort of Adam and Julius.
And then through the air, Taco Dollar, 2 touchdowns, a career high in receiving yards, and did a lot of that after he took that really big-time hit in the middle of the field, popped back up. Tell me about Taco Dollar's toughness. I feel like that's been on display all year.
Yeah, he is. He's something else. I think he typically can avoid those big shots. He's got a knack for being able to avoid them, whether it's in the return game or his run after the catch ability. But he took it there, and that was a critical play. The game was 13-0 at that time. That was a 2nd and 10. If we don't make a completion there, we're probably going to run it and punt it. But he knew he had to make it, and he got hit from both sides. And I'm sure he'd be the first one to say, well, if I'm going to get hit, I might as well catch it. So it was great to see him pop up there. I know he is small in stature, but yeah, he's as tough as they come.
And so is Justin Lamson. We saw another fine performance from him. What are some of the conversations you're having with him just in terms of how to take hits, when to take hits, and how to protect himself while still trying to get those big yardage and big moments?
Yeah, I think he made really good decisions, both when to throw, when to run. He made some real, I think critical plays, scrambling, especially in that second quarter. And I think there's a time when you can be physical, need to be physical, and I think just continuing to measure those moments, whether it's at the goal line, whether it's a third down. I know the first play he drops the snap and gets 8 yards and is physical. That's not necessarily the play we want him to be physical, but I think he's figuring out when it's needed, I guess. And he's a tough guy, and he's a big, strong guy too. So that's part of his game, and we're not trying to put him in harm's way a whole lot, but just understand it might happen. And honestly, he's better off trying to dole it out than trying to, the one time he tried to protect himself was probably the one time he came up slow.
Yeah, is it a similar conversation you were having with Malott last year? Like, is it kind of the same thing or just different guys?
A little bit different. I think Tommy's ability, we really had to transform him. As far as, as much as we asked him to run in the true quarterback run game, and I thought he did a really good job of protecting himself last year. And I think it's about what is that cost benefit. Is it getting a first down? Is it getting a touchdown? Or is it an opportunity to go down, to go out of bounds? So I think it's those constant conversations. But the competitor in these guys is what you love the most, and you really got to be careful how much you want to temper that.
Yeah. All right. Weber State coming up on Saturday. What are some of the strengths of this Wildcats team coming in?
Well, they're really banged up on offense right now, so I know the version of what we might see Saturday is a little bit of a guessing game. They've suffered injuries at quarterback and running back, but schematically they're still doing a lot of the same things that have brought them a lot of success over the years. Defensively, I'd say the same thing. They're not as depleted, maybe injury-wise, but it has to work together for team success. And we got to anticipate that they're going to bring their best and they're going to be able to put their best effort forward. But they still have a lot of the same elements, the same scheme, good players that they've had in those matchups in the past.
All right, looking forward to it. Back home for the first time in about a month, coming up on Saturday. All right, we're taking a break. Grace Lawrence will rejoin us, and then Adam Jones is here in studio on the Bobcat Insider.
Welcome back to Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Let's turn our attention to the Bobcat offense, which is humming right now, coming off that 55-point performance against Northern Colorado. And Grace, let's start with Justin Lamson, a career-high 331 passing yards, and he did that in just 3 quarters of play. Fine performance from him.
I absolutely love watching Justin play at quarterback, and he's really got so many receivers that he can connect with. Coach Mix, the wide receivers coach, he really harps on being the spark. I've talked to Taco Dowler about it. He had a couple touchdowns over the weekend. But Ryan King, the Georgia native, he's had 3 different stops in college, found a home in Bozeman, and came up huge in that first half.
Yeah, he was certainly a big-time spark, and Ryan King, who has played over 50 career games, still looking for that first career touchdown. We know that's right around the corner, but we talk about this complementary team on offense. Look at these last 3 games. Adam Jones, 170-plus yards on the ground. Julius Davis, 170-plus yards on the ground. And now Justin Lamson hanging the 330-plus this last week.
What would you do if you were an opposing defense?
No idea.
Me either, and maybe we'll have to ask Adam about it. Coming up after the break, we'll be talking to the Missoula native.
Welcome back to Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Welcome back into the Bobcat Insider. Grace Lawrence joined alongside standout running back Adam Jones. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
You guys are coming off a big win on the road at UNC. Just take me inside the locker room. How is it right now?
Yeah, I think the energy, specifically in that game, UNC just, that the environment there wasn't going to have a lot of energy. So it was kind of bring your own juice type of game. And I think that really had our team come together. And I think the energy in our locker room right now is definitely the highest it's been, and I think that's important. You got to keep growing it every week.
Yeah, Justin was saying when he ran out and saw all the fans, that brought some juice too. What can you say about Bobcat Nation showing out? It's got to be nice to have a lot of flights from Montana to Denver.
No, it's awesome. I think when we ran out, definitely that game, the entire section was filled and had a lot more fans than they did. And I think anytime you can, travel better than the home team, that's pretty special, and it definitely gets us fired up.
For sure. You guys took care of business on Saturday, but there was a lot of top 10 upsets, a lot of ranked upsets within the FCS. How do you as a team kind of stay in your own lane and not let that outside noise creep in?
Yeah, I think, it can be hard at the second half of the season. That's kind of where teams either make or break, and if you get comfortable, a team that's not as good as you definitely can is capable of beating you. So I think just doing whatever it takes to not be comfortable. We compete a lot at practice. We go at each other. So I think that's been a big part of it.
Are you able to draw on the experience of last year as well? You guys were primed in a position, just keep winning and things will work out. Do you lean on that experience?
For sure. I think it's important to, take what we learned from last year and the parts that helped us win and apply it to, every year. So I think that there's a lot of overlap between last year and this year.
And then talking about the game at UNC, I want to talk about Talon's play. An 80-yard pick six. Shout out to Dom Solano also. Yeah. He tipped it. Bobcat Nation went crazy. You were standing up next to him on the bench, kind of fanning him. What was that moment like?
That was pretty special. That was probably one of my favorite moments since I've been at Montana State. And just for a guy like Talon, who's a Montana dude, Gatorade Player of the Year, it actually doesn't surprise me. In high school, he was really, really fast at D-line. I think he actually caught me one play on a screen, and he lets me hear it to this day. So I wasn't surprised that he did that, but I think just the energy and us dogpiling in the end zone, I think that's something we won't forget.
Yeah, Coach Vigen was okay with that unsportsmanlike penalty. Probably the only one he'll ever be okay with, but there you go. Being a leader this year, being a captain, just take me through what it's been like this year.
It's been a lot of growing. I think for me, I'm not a dude who likes to, raise my voice or be a vocal leader, but I think when you're nominated as a captain, you kind of are thrown into that position. So I think it's been a lot of learning, and it's been a cool experience for me and something that I'm very grateful to represent as a captain at Montana State. But, I have so many amazing dudes around me that they make it pretty easy, and it's not just the captains that are leaders, which is the nice thing.
Definitely. Talking about one of those captains, though, JT Reed, I always remember this conversation we had at the Big Sky kickoff when you were announced as the preseason offensive MVP. I asked him about you, and he called you a chameleon because you were so good at just taking players in who come from all over the country and making them feel welcome. Just take me through your mindset with that and what it's like being a teammate, taking everyone in.
Yeah, I think that's the number one reason why I love playing football is you take 110 guys that come from very different backgrounds at times, and you're thrown into one team and you have one end goal. And I think through that experience, you get to know dudes that are not like you at all. And I think, anytime I meet someone who I learn things from, that's like the coolest thing. And I just love learning about, different backgrounds, guys from California. JT's story is one that's resonated with me. I love that dude. So I think, I think it's super cool to be a part of something special.
Yeah, you talked about guys from California, one of them being Justin Lampson. He had a career-high 330-yard game on Saturday. I mean, you couple that with Julius's performance last week, 170-plus yards, your performance against Idaho State. Just how dynamic is this offense? How would you game plan for it if you were a defense?
I have no idea. I think it's really hard knowing what guy's going to come out every week and fire off a 300-yard game like Justin or Julius going 170 yards or Taco going 150. I think it's really hard to scheme and try to game plan against us, and at the same time it's hard for us to try to make those plays because you might not get all the looks, but you got to do what you can with your looks. So I think it's been really fun. Like, we compete with each other, like who's going to have the big game this week. But at the end of the day, we all love each other, so it's been fun. Yeah,
does your offense kind of feel the momentum building game to game? You guys have stacked together some really great games, especially since conference play has started.
Yeah, I think, the mindset in the offensive room is we don't feel like we've had the respect that we deserve. I think people haven't been talking about us enough. But throughout all that, we know what we've been capable of, and it's just been us putting our head down, keep growing, keep learning from the coaches, and I think they've done a really good job. So I think it's just having that chip on our shoulder.
Yeah, Justin brings a chip on his shoulder. What's his best quality he brings to your offense?
His competitiveness, for sure. I'm sure you've heard that multiple times, but he demands a lot. He's extremely intense, and I think it's the best quality he has, for sure.
Yeah, just take me inside what this brotherhood's like. You've been a part of this program for a few years now. Vigen stresses it a lot. What is this culture like under Vigen?
It's unlike anything I've been a part of, and it's special because you're close with every dude on the team. It doesn't matter if you're offense, defense, you're a specialist. I mean, I know, and everyone would say the same thing. We all know each other in that locker room, and I think when you have that, you have the ability to push each other. You can call each other out in times, and I think when you know them, it's easier to do that, and I think that's what Coach Vigen has done a really good job at.
Yeah, definitely, and you guys are finally back at home after a bye week and 2 road games. How excited are you to get back in front of Bobcat Stadium?
So excited. I think going on the road is tough, and it's hard on your body, and mentally being at home is such a good feeling, knowing you get to go out in front of 20,000 fans, knowing that they're supporting you. So I think we're really fired up to get back in Bobcat Stadium.
Yeah, how will you guys go 1-0 against Weber State? What stands out most about them? A team that's, pretty good, but they battled a lot of injuries this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you turn on the tape, they have athletes everywhere, and I think when you play teams like that, you have to be really keyed into, what we're trying to do, and I think that's the biggest thing is, we're not worried about, how many dudes they have over there. We know what we have, and if we can execute, I think it'll go as planned.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me. Good luck this Saturday and the rest of the year. That was Adam Jones, and stay tuned because Keaton and I will be previewing the matchup against the Wildcats this Saturday coming up after this.
Welcome back to Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Welcome back into the Bobcat Insider. Grace Lawrence joined alongside Keaton Glogly. And I really think Adam Jones hit the nail on the head. I mean, he's leaning a bit on last year's experience. That Bobcat team had everything in front of them around this time of year, but they still had to take care of business and go 1-0 every week.
Absolutely, and they're going to have to do that again this weekend, and especially it's even more important now after seeing all the teams that did not take care of business last week. You had multiple top 10 teams going down. South Dakota State, UC Davis, University of North Dakota, all losing this last week, including Tarleton State as well. So now the new rankings have number 1, NDSU, number 2, Montana, number 3, Montana State. So with all of that, the pressure continues to ramp up as we get into the meat of November.
Even I'm having to remind myself, stay focused, because that brawl could have a lot of stakes at the end of the month. But talking about this week, I mean, Vigen is 34-0 against unranked FCS opponents, which applies to this Weber State game. The team just has to take care of business if they want to win and keep stacking.
Absolutely. Sometimes the path to greatness is just taking care of business against Weber State coming up on Saturday with a 1 o'clock kickoff.